Are you telling yourself these lies and wondering why your music career isn't taking off? Today, I'm exposing the top lies producers tell themselves and how these mindsets traps you, keeps you stuck, and going in circles for years. I've talked with tens of thousands of producers, heard endless demos, and these same toxic beliefs keep coming up again and again. And if you want to avoid years of banging your head against the wall and not getting results, then keep watching. Let's not make these mistakes. Now, I will say you might find this triggering, but if it is, this is a good thing. It's time for change. Now, line number one, I need a huge social media following to succeed. Now, yes, whilst this can help, some labels and promoters might care about social media a lot, but having fewer than 10k followers doesn't stop you from signing to big labels or playing big shows. At the end of the day, the people that are making this decision based on your followers are thinking, is this person actually a professional? Do they have fans? Are people going to buy a ticket if we book them? And that's one way that they can be sure of that, whether that's a promoter or a label. It's not the only way, and there's actually much better ways, like having what's called leverage. This is what matters. Creating something that people actually want. Great music alone is the absolute minimum requirement to getting any results, but having something cool like a unique brand, maybe you have a large email list, maybe you have a radio show. You know, the actual follower count people get so obsessed over is totally useless, because you could have 100,000 followers, all of which don't care. All that means is someone has taken the absolute minimum effort to engage with you. But does that mean that they actually care? Are they going to buy a ticket? Are they going to buy your merch? Possibly not. If you don't have a process of taking these new people from becoming a fan, from discovering you for the first time, maybe clicking that follow button, but then nurturing them, engaging them to the point where they are a fan, they do know about you, they care about you, they'll buy your music, they'll come buy tickets to your shows, maybe they even fly to a different country to come see you play when you get to that stage. All of that is totally useless if they're not engaged. And of course, like, having a huge following if your music's not even that good is just a total waste of time, because you're never going to be able to capitalize on that if you're trying to push bad music on them, right? So focus on the product first, as in your music, and let the marketing follow. It's much easier to sell great music than mediocre music wrapped up in hype, because that never lasts. And to this point as well, never ever buy fake followers. This is a real profile I came across that followed me, and I thought, my god, this person is famous, because look how many followers they have, right? And in the music industry, in our scene, having this number of followers means you're like huge. Like people like Yotto, for example, he's got only like 20k more followers than this person, allegedly. But you know, you go to their Spotify and they have tracks with less than 1,000 plays, 1.3k monthly listeners. Like, something's not adding up, nor are the likes and engagement. Like, what the hell even is this content? Like, it's so obvious this is fake. It takes you literally 2 seconds to realize that this person's absolutely ruined their profile. And if anybody even would consider booking this person, like, honestly, you would have to be a moron to book this person, because it's clearly that no one actually cares about this profile because they're all fake. But if you were to book this person because you didn't do your due diligence, you would probably find that nobody shows up, and this person's never going to get booked again. Promoters are a small network, and they do talk to each other. So never do this. Never buy followers. Work on your product, and it becomes so much easier to market it, right? Just seeing this, like, it took me literally 2 seconds to realize this person is claiming to be somebody that they're not. So why would I ever, like, if this person sent music to my label, I wouldn't even listen. I'd be like, no, I'm not wasting my time, because this person's clearly trying to just game the system, and I don't want to work with people like that. And it's not just me as a label that thinks that, it's promoters, it's everybody else. Yeah, you might be able to trick a few people into giving you opportunities, and the point is the word tricking them, you're deceiving them. They're not going to want to work with you again when they realize that you're not who you say you are. So never do that. Now, this second lie is probably going to be quite triggering, but so many people I speak to say, my music is already amazing, it's so great, I just can't get it in front of the right people. What this means is your music isn't as good as you think it is. If it was truly groundbreaking, really good, and was that amazing, word of mouth would eventually spread. People would be like, oh my God, you have to hear about this guy or girl. Their music is incredible. If you've got a good product, people hear about it, right? If you're not getting that hype just from putting your music, even if you just put it out on socials and you've got like 1,000 followers or whatever, you put it out on socials and people are just like, wow, this is crazy, and sharing it and sending it to their friends, then clearly it's not that good, right? I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it's just the harsh truth. Now, I've spoken to quite a few people like this, and often when they actually send their music, I'm like, okay, cool, let's hear your music. And it's usually nowhere near what they're making it out to be. But when you do give them constructive feedback, like, hey, here's some things that you could do to improve if you're wanting to get results, like sign to labels and get it in front of the right people, whatever, they often become incredibly defensive and say like, oh, I'm being supported by big DJs, like everybody says it's amazing. Well, if everyone says it's amazing, why are you still not getting results? Like, getting feedback from the right people is important, but like there are levels to it, right? If an experienced coach or a professional tells you that it needs improvement, that's worth a lot more than your mate who is just a yes man or yes girl who doesn't want to hurt your feelings, who's like, oh my God, this is amazing, keep doing it. They don't really mean that. Or maybe they just don't know what they're talking about, right? Harsh truth is constructive, honest criticism from people, producers that are better than you is the only way you're going to succeed. And if you think you're already great, you probably aren't, because if you were, you would be getting results. Now, a few things that like absolutely don't work. And by the way, we cover this in our first 1,000 fans training. If you do want to learn how to grow your fan base, it's totally for free in my school community. Links in the description. But these are real messages from people. This does not work at all. It just annoys people. So if you ever find yourself tagging like hundreds of people in your posts, like you're just going to annoy them. This is real. This person tagged me in this random, literally no context, just a link to their mix. Never spoke to this person. Instant unfriend, block, thank you very much, goodbye. Now, this could be the best mix I've ever heard. It's probably not. I mean, look at the artwork, it looks pretty garbage. But my point is, he went from taking someone that was potentially interested in their music to pissing them off and like blacklisting them, basically. So yeah, don't do this. This is not how you promote music. Nor is this, like, this person tagging me in where their track is in the Beatport chart. I've never spoken to this person before, ever. And it's like, cool, I don't care. Why are you tagging me? And I've censored all of this stuff, but like, you know, look at like the artwork. The artwork just looks kind of tragic. And by the way, the Beatport charts can be very easily manipulated, particularly the releases chart. Take it from me as someone that's had 3 Beatport #1s, it's pretty easy to do in the releases chart. I don't know this person, I don't owe them anything. Why are they tagging me in this? This is not, I'm not ever going to be a fan. Like, stop tagging me, I'm out. Sorry, dude. The way I would think about it as well is, if you have a bad product, now look, I'm not saying a Ford Ka is a bad product or anything, but it's very much like a sort of basic everyman car, right, so to speak. Like, if you have a Ford Ka, like, great, it's a reliable car, sure, but it's aimed at the masses, right? Like, you know, is it going to perform a record at the Nuremberg Ring? Probably not. Is Lewis Hamilton going to drive one around Silverstone? I don't think so. It's not a premium car. It's like a sort of entry-level product into the car market. That's kind of how you would think about music, right? If you're thinking that you're having to spend loads of money on marketing to get it heard, it's probably because your product just isn't that good. Contrast that with like the Lamborghini Aventador over here. Like, how many ads have you ever seen for a Lamborghini? Literally zero, because they have an incredible product, word of mouth spreads, and their actual marketing is smart and ultra targeted. Like, people with bad products, or not necessarily bad products, but products that are aimed at the masses, have to have tons of advertising because they're trying to convince you to sell you on the fact that you should buy this over all of the other budget cars out there, right? Whereas Lamborghinis, it's just like, okay, like, you know, everybody knows what a Lamborghini is, how much of a premium car it is, but they don't run adverts. The way they sell their cars is they go to places like yacht auctions, because somebody that's buying a yacht sees a Lamborghini as pocket change. That's smart marketing, right? So if you've got a really good product, be much smarter with your marketing. You can be much more frugal, by the way, as well. You don't have to spend tons of money to get really good results. And this is something that we teach in the First 1,000 Fans training. By the way, you can get that in our academy if you unlock it. So be the Lamborghini. Focus on creating a really good product first, and then your marketing efforts are actually much easier because you've got a good product. So seek constructive critique, keep refining the craft. The best tracks do get noticed eventually by labels, DJs, and fans, but if you just think that you're not getting your music in front of the right people, that's not actually the problem. It's probably that your music is good enough. Okay, lie number 3. This is a classic one. All I need is better mixing and mastering, and then I'll blow up, or all my problems will be solved. Now, yes, mixing and mastering is important, but it's not the only part of the track. Here I have a little diagram, you could call it, which basically shows the actual impacts that each of the stages have. The earlier stages are way more important. So the idea, the production, like that's probably the most important part of the track. Maybe even these percentages should be high. Arrangement, also very important. You have to be able to tell a compelling story. The last 2 stages, they add to 20 to 30% at best. It doesn't matter how technically perfect your engineering side of things are. If you've got an amazing mix down and master, fantastic. But if your idea and arrangement are garbage, then it doesn't matter. You still got a track that no one cares about. Most people that say this are probably not aware of the fact that their ideas need more refining and production. And honestly, like, this is actually kind of easier than getting better at mixing and mastering, I would say. It's just you need to be aware of this. But also the storytelling of arrangement needs to be better as well. Like, often I'll listen to people who say this exact thing to me, and you listen and you just hear like their tracks are quite monotonous in terms of the arrangement. There's not a sense of tension and release. It doesn't take you on a journey. But then also it's just quite repetitive, and like it needs more elements to fill it out to be a more professional production. It doesn't matter if you go hire the most expensive mixing engineer in the world. It's still not going to be a great track because these parts here are way more important. To explain this point, a great idea with so-so mixing can always be fixed by a label engineer. Labels literally have mixing and mastering engineers for this exact reason, because not everybody is good at mixing and mastering. It is tough. I will say that. You have to train your ears. And by the way, we have a video on that right here if you want to go check that out. And also a video on how to my exact mixing workflow, so you can go learn that. And a course in Marksman's Producer Academy School community, and we did a training on mastering in our accelerator program last week. If you want to check that out, there is a free trial. But if you've never had that response where you've sent your music to a label and they say, this is great, but it could do with some help with the mixing, they give you a positive response and say, hey, the mix down could be improved, and there's usually some back and forth, and eventually they'll be like, okay, look, we'll mix it for you. I have literally done this with my label. There have been I'm not going to name the artist, but there have been 3 or 4 instances where artists have sent us music and I'll be like, this is a really good track, it just needs fixing in the technical parts. So we mix and master it for them. And yes, this is recoupable from their royalties, but because we believed in the track, because these first 2 stages here were really, really good, just the last 20-30% part was not as good, but it was like, you know, let's say 80-90% there. It just needed a little push in the right direction. Like, the mixes weren't terrible, but they weren't our standard. And so we made them our standard, right? Because it was a great track. It had potential. But if you've never had that feedback before, clearly it's not these things which are the problem. It's actually these things that are the problem. My advice would be to don't obsess solely over the engineering side of things. Get better at composition, arrangement, and creativity, how you can develop your ideas further, create tension release in your tracks. And yes, the technical parts will come, and you know, you can always hire an engineer, but you don't, because we can teach you how to do that in our accelerator program, which will be way better, and you'll save more money, by the way. The first stages of this process, far more critical. This one is a doozy. There's no way to make money in the music unless you're a superstar, or unless you're playing big shows, unless you're signing to top labels. And yes, absolutely, there is money in that. We're talking about the 0.1% of people that actually get to the stage where they can rely off money from their music, and probably actually less than that. And even touring artists, you know, like, you've got to be a pretty big name to be able to actually, number one, get paid for your gigs anyway, but also paid enough to actually make good cash so that you could do it full time, right? It is a competitive industry, I will give you that. But there are many other revenue streams that you can take a look at where you can make much more money consistently, much quicker if you're smart about it. Now, things like this can be sample packs, sync licensing, production or engineering services, collaboration, ghost production, and teaching. And you don't have to be a superstar to do it. Like, obviously, the more credibility you have as an artist, like, this is why it's important to push yourself as an artist as far as you can. Like, maybe you get a big label signing, and then that's going to give you more credibility for mixing and mastering or production or teaching or whatever. But like, you don't necessarily need that. When I started coaching, I wasn't releasing on big labels like I am now, and I still managed to pay the bills and do music full time way before a lot of my friends do, who some of which are releasing on top labels but still don't do music full time because it's not reliable unless you're playing consistent shows. Now, say what you will about Spotify not paying artists enough, and yes, that's true, but you know, you make 1 million streams, that's $4,000 in revenue, which isn't a lot considering you're probably going to have to share that with the label, at least 50% of that, probably more if they're a good label. So yeah, the money in streaming just isn't really there. So you have to be playing shows. But as we said earlier, like, it's not necessarily all about you having a solid release on labels. It's not necessarily about you having a following or lack thereof to get booked or releasing on top labels. Like, really, really important. But I know lots of my friends who release on good labels that aren't doing music full time because they're not playing shows enough, or they're not monetizing their career in the way that they could do. Now, you do have to have a bit of a business mindset to do this, yes, but it is called the music business, right? Just like any other creative industry, those that have good business skills, or at least learn to develop them, or are open to learning to develop them, are gonna make much more money much quicker than the people that are just kind of randomly doing stuff creatively and hoping for the best, right? Consistency is so much easier when you're diversifying, because even if you are a top touring artist, like at any minute, like, you could not be as hot anymore. Like, you're only as good as your last track, and then unfortunately, it's a lot more difficult to produce a hit record than it is to set up, let's just say, a sample pack business. Neither of which are easy, I should say, but one is substantially more consistent, right? And you can do for the long term and do it much quicker than you could do to become a touring artist that makes lots of money, if you ever even get there, right? Literally went from being like, you know, making loads of money, having an amazing time, to I can't pay the bills because I'm not earning any money. That could absolutely happen again. So diversify your portfolio and think more about things outside of just Spotify, Beatport, and touring to make money. And so I see so many people complaining about how Spotify play terrible royalties, and like, yeah, they do, but don't use it as a way to make money. You use it as a way to get discovered by fans. It's a great platform for that. And yeah, you get paid a little bit. It's not great. That's only what you're relying on. You're going to struggle unless you're getting millions and millions or even billions of streams. Then sure, yeah, that's great. My advice to you guys is think long term. Build a sustainable music related career and business that doesn't solely depend on your personal artist brand being hot, because there is no guarantee it will ever be hot. But even if you do get to the stage where you're making really good traction and getting great results, it's not going to last forever. All big empires fall down, and the bigger they are, the harder they fall. So set yourself up for success outside of just your artist career. So if any of this stuff resonated with you, hit that subscribe button. We have lots of content on the way, technical, mindset, and everything you're going to need to know to be a better producer and get results. Which slide do you think is the biggest trap? Drop a comment below if you got triggered by them. And for free courses, feedback, and a path to level up your music, check out my school community. Link is in the description. But if you want to have us in your corner in a way that we can work with you directly to take you to the next level, I break down exactly how to do that, plus the steps you need to take to go full-time in music in this video right here. So go check that out. See you in the next one.